Welcome back, Alphas. You feel it now, don't you? The weight of your presence, the difference in the room when you step into it, the way silence folds itself in reverence when your footsteps echo through spaces where mediocrity used to sit comfortably. People still can't believe this shh. How did you know so early? How were you so ahead of the curve, ahead of the destruction, ahead of the collapse, while they were laughing, mocking, sipping from the chalice of comfort and illusion? You knew because you listened to what they were too terrified to hear. You knew because you stared into the void, and instead of blinking, you leaned forward. Because while they waited for a sign, for permission, for someone else to validate their instincts, you were already building. Quietly, in the shadows, with bloodied hands and sleepless nights and visions that scorched through your soul like fire through a field of dead weeds. You didn't need applause. You didn't need consensus. You needed the truth, and the truth is never beautiful, never soft, never served on a silver plate. They called you paranoid. They called you delusional. They said you were overthinking, overreaching, overreacting. You smiled because you knew. You knew that the ones who see the storm before the first cloud appears are never understood. You knew that prophecy always sounds like madness when it speaks too early. You weren't trying to convince them. You weren't waiting for the crowd. You were already gone, already 3 steps ahead, already creating escape routes while they were still decorating cages. There's a dark place between belief and proof. That's where you lived. That's where the real ones always live, where doubt is thick like smoke and faith is the only thing keeping your lungs from collapsing. You walked there for years, alone, in the silence, in the tension, and now they see. Now they're staring with wide eyes, shaking their heads, whispering in awe. How did they know? And you just watch them, because the answer is too brutal for their soft minds. You knew because you suffered earlier than they did. You felt the shifts in the ground before the earthquake ever showed its teeth. You felt the decay in their golden systems. You saw the cracks behind their smiles. You heard the panic behind their confidence. And while they partied, you prepared. While they consumed, you created. While they repeated, you rewrote the whole damn script. Let them whisper. Let them theorize. Let them romanticize your instincts now that the storm has come. But remember, they didn't believe you. They didn't believe in you. They didn't want you to be right, because your truth made them uncomfortable. It made them face their own laziness, their own blindness, their own fear of action. They don't envy your success, they envy your foresight, because it means they missed the signs you read like scripture. It means they weren't just late, they were blind. So don't you dare shrink now. Don't you dare soften your steps to make their pace feel relevant. You earned this edge. You bled for it. You lost for it. You buried versions of yourself to keep evolving. You were made the villain in stories you didn't even know were being told, just because you dared to say, I see what you're ignoring. This world wasn't built for visionaries. It tolerates them only after their warnings become history. But you're not here for tolerance. You're here to dominate, to execute, to survive when others drown in disbelief. Because you didn't just know, you moved, you acted, and that's the part they'll never understand. It's not just that you saw it coming. It's that you were cold enough to adapt before it arrived. Merciless enough to cut ties, to burn bridges, to sacrifice comfort for clarity. You didn't wait for a savior. You became your own. You didn't cry for fairness. You hunted advantage. You didn't break when it got hard. You got harder. And that's what separates you now. They keep asking how. How did you do it? How did you know? As if it was magic. As if it was luck. as if it wasn't forged in silence and pain and ruthless consistency. There were nights you questioned everything. There were moments you broke down in empty rooms with no one watching, no one applauding, no one saving you. But you still got up, every time. And that made you lethal. You're not just smart, you're dangerous. Because you've seen hell, and instead of retreating, you started building there. Foundations made of scars, walls made of regrets turned into resolve. You didn't wait for life to give you a reason. You became the reason. Now the game is flipped. Now they're looking to you, the one they once ignored, the one they doubted. They want answers. They want strategies. But they don't understand. The game isn't about answers. It's about mindset, about how deep you're willing to go when everything on the surface is screaming at you to quit. They want the formula, but the formula is madness and obsession and an unshakable refusal to stay asleep. The formula is waking up before the world and going to sleep after it. Eyes bloodshot, brain wired, spirit unkillable. You didn't just see the storm, you became the storm, and that's why you win. Because while they worship comfort, you worship evolution. While they dream of easy, you run toward challenge. While they chase approval, you chase truth, even when it burns. So when they say they can't believe it, let them. Let them choke on their own disbelief. You're not here to make it make sense for them. You're here to lead, to conquer, to survive the world they still think is safe. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be undeniable. And this is just the beginning. Because the truth is, they never really wanted you to be right. That's the part they'll never say out loud. Your foresight wasn't just a mirror. It was a judgment, a cold, unforgiving reminder that they could have done more, could have been more, but they chose to sleep, chose to laugh, chose to distract themselves while you sharpened your instincts in silence. And now they call it genius. But back then, they called it crazy, arrogant, unnecessary. You didn't just survive what broke them. You built on top of the ruins they left behind. You used their ashes like mortar, and you constructed something they can't even comprehend. And now, all they can do is stare at you, mouths half open, trying to piece together how the hell you saw it before anyone else. But you didn't need to see everything. You just needed to feel what they kept ignoring. You felt the shift, the rot, the cracks forming underneath the glossy surface of the world they worshipped. And while they played pretend, you prepared for war. What they don't know is how close you came to collapsing. How many times you doubted yourself in the middle of a quiet room with no one to pull you out. But you didn't fold. You transformed. Pain wasn't your enemy. It was your forge. Every scar taught you something no textbook ever could. Every betrayal, every setback, every failure. It wasn't the end. It was weight. And you carried that weight like armor until your back got strong enough to break the chains they were still dancing in. Now they look at you and call it overnight. They think it was sudden, as if there weren't years of grinding in silence. As if there weren't countless nights where your soul screamed and no one heard it. As if this clarity wasn't bought with everything you used to be. They'll never get it, because they were waiting for evidence while you were moving by faith. They were studying the rules while you were rewriting the entire game. People still can't believe this shit. How did you know so early? Because you were willing to look where others refused. Because you didn't need comfort. You needed truth. You didn't run from pain. You interrogated it, broke it open, and dug out the raw material you needed to build the future. You didn't get lucky. You got prepared. And the difference is everything. You weren't made for the spotlight. They don't make spotlights for people like you. You weren't bred to be seen. You were built to make them watch. And now that they're watching, Keep going. Don't slow down to explain. Don't dilute your message just to make them feel included. You were exiled from the masses for a reason. You were chosen by fire. And now that you're out of the inferno, your job is not to return and rescue them. It's to light the way forward, whether they follow or not. You owe nothing to those who laughed, nothing to the ones who dismissed your instincts. You don't need their applause, and you sure as hell don't need their validation. What you need is momentum. Keep it. Protect it. Feed it. Because now they'll come in disguise, praise in their mouth, but fear in their eyes. They'll pretend to support what they used to reject, but they're only here now because you made it safe for them to arrive. Don't forget who disappeared when you needed belief instead of hindsight. This is your season of vengeance, not the kind with fists or flames, but the quiet, surgical kind, the kind that doesn't raise its voice, the kind that shows up, wins, and leaves before they can even process what just happened. You don't need to scream. You are the silence that makes them uncomfortable. You are the question they can't answer. You are the prediction that came true while they were still mocking the prophet. You don't owe them explanations. You don't need to slow your flight just because they never learned how to jump. You were meant to rise, and rise alone if necessary, because that's what you've always done. That's why you're here. That's why they're still trying to catch up, because you moved when it was dark. You trained when it was lonely. You trusted yourself when every voice around you told you not to. And now they ask how, but they'll never survive the answer, because the answer is discipline in isolation, obsession without recognition. It's burning the old version of yourself over and over until only the weapon remains. It's failing publicly and bleeding privately. It's living in a state of constant construction while they decorate the same decaying homes. It's dying to your old life again and again until the only thing that remains is something too ruthless to be ignored. You didn't just want to win, you needed to evolve. That's why this hits different. That's why you're untouchable now, not because you're lucky, but because you were willing to become what they couldn't even imagine. And now, you walk among them, sharper than ever, colder than ever, unstoppable in a way they can feel, but not explain. They feel it when you walk in. They feel the gap between your presence and their excuses. That gap, it's the years you spent alone. It's the cost they weren't willing to pay. So let them keep asking how you knew. Let them study your path like it's a mystery. You don't owe them a breadcrumb. You don't owe them your map. You didn't just read the future, you became it. You moved through hell and didn't just survive, you brought fire back with you. And now, they want the heat, but they still fear the burn. They want the results, but not the rigor. They want the crown, but not the crucifixion. This is your era, not just of winning, but of reminding them that some people were born for war. You didn't ask for the battlefield, you became it. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every betrayal, it didn't weaken you, it refined you. You didn't just endure the darkness, you studied it, mapped it, and built a throne in the center of it. So stand tall, speak less, move more. And when they come asking again, how did you know so early? Just smile, because the answer isn't for them. It never was. You saw it, you felt it, you prepared, you acted. And now you lead. You lead because you earned it, in silence, in suffering. While they chased dopamine hits and distractions, you studied pain. You made peace with the demons they still run from. You looked into the mirror and confronted every weakness. You dissected yourself without mercy, and you didn't run. You rebuilt, brick by brutal brick. While they medicated themselves with lies, you took the unfiltered truth and swallowed it whole. That's what separates you. You don't flinch, you don't fold. You felt every warning before it became a headline. You heard the system groaning under its own weight. You watched the illusion glitch while others still thought it was a game. You didn't need the media to confirm it. You didn't wait for someone to announce the collapse. You were already building the next thing while they were still defending the old. They don't understand how deep you went, how many layers you stripped away just to find the raw version of yourself. Scarred, unrecognizable, but real. They only see the version standing now, not the 1,000 corpses of your former self buried underneath. But that's what it took. You had to die to comfort. You had to kill the part of you that needed praise, that needed company, that needed certainty. You had to stop hoping. Hope is a beautiful lie sold to the weak. You don't hope anymore. You act, you predict, prepare, and push through. That's what made you dangerous. They thought your power was in your knowledge, but it's not. It's in your ability to move before the facts are accepted, to commit before the crowd sees the value. That's why they can't stop asking. How did you know? Because they can't comprehend action without external confirmation. But you weren't waiting for permission. You were hunting. You didn't chase dreams. You hunted visions. There's a difference. Dreams are for the passive. Visions are for the possessed. And you were possessed, obsessed, awake when they were asleep, focused when they were distracted, building when they were breaking. You weren't born ready. You made yourself ready. Every day, every damn day. You trained your instincts, sharpened your mind, conditioned your spirit to endure more than most would ever choose to. And now that the world's burning, now that the veil's been ripped open, now that the lies are melting under the pressure of reality, they remember you. They remember what you said, what you warned, what you predicted, but they also remember how they laughed. And that's the weight they'll carry now. Not just that you were right, but that they refused to listen, that they mocked what could have saved them, that they ridiculed what they now need. Let them carry that shame. That's not your burden. You're done trying to translate your frequency for people committed to static. You speak in signals only the prepared can hear. And now they want to learn your language? Too late. This isn't school. This is war. And you've been ready. They thought they had time. That's the biggest lie of all. Time. They thought they could delay greatness, postpone preparation, that when the moment came, they could simply turn it on. But you know better. You know time isn't given. It's stolen. Taken by those ruthless enough to act when no one else will. And now the hour is here. And you're not rushing. You're not scrambling. You're walking through the chaos like it's home. Because it is. You built your mind in it. And now they want guidance. Now they want shortcuts. Now they want to download what took you years of agony to engrave in your psyche. But there are no shortcuts to depth. There are no cheat codes for clarity. You bled for this wisdom. You burned for this foresight. And they want it for free. They want the results without the process, the reward without the crucifixion. And that's why they'll never understand. You didn't get here by chance. You got here by sacrifice. So what now? You keep going. You keep climbing. You don't stop to explain to the ones still asking how. You nod. You smile. And you move. Because now the mission has changed. You're not proving anything anymore. You're executing. You're expanding. You're turning foresight into dominance. You're turning clarity into legacy. And anyone who isn't on that path is a distraction. Because make no mistake, the world isn't going back. The illusion isn't coming to save anyone. The storm is permanent now, and only those who learned how to see through it, how to move in it, will rise. The rest will sink, drown in their own doubt, crushed by the weight of their own denial. But not you, because while they prayed for calm, you trained for war. And you didn't just train to survive. You trained to dominate, to turn your scars into weapons, to turn your past into armor. You don't walk with fear anymore. You walk with fire. And anyone who touches your path now either gets burned or gets out of the way. You don't need more information. You are the information. You don't need a blueprint. You are the architect now, and the game bends to the will of the builders, not the bystanders. You don't adapt to their world anymore. You build your own, relentlessly, without apology, without compromise. This is your reign. Not because someone gave it to you, but because you took it, through isolation, through silence, through seasons of doubt that would have broken lesser souls. You don't need to tell your story. They can feel it. In your presence, in your eyes, in your decisions. Every move you make now echoes with the ghosts of who you used to be. And that's your power. You're not afraid to kill old versions of yourself to keep ascending. You're not afraid to burn old belief systems to keep evolving. So let them ask, let them question, let them write their think pieces and opinions about how you got here. None of it matters. You're not here for narrative. You're here for victory. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. And legends don't explain. They endure. They evolve. They execute. You didn't just see what was coming. You became what was necessary. And that's why you're feared. Not because of what you say, but because of what you saw and what you did with it. Now finish what you started. Burn brighter. Move louder. Think sharper. Build deeper. Because they're watching now. But you're not performing. You're operating. You're creating futures. You're architecting realities. And the same people who once couldn't believe you. They'll soon realize they're living inside a world that only exists because you refuse to stay blind. So walk like a prophecy. Speak like a reckoning. And move like you already know how it ends, because you do. So here's the final truth they don't want you to admit aloud. You were never meant to fit in. You were never meant to wait for signs or permission. You were meant to break the cycle, shatter the illusions, and carry the weight that others refuse to bear. And now, standing on the other side of all their doubts and disbelief, you are the reckoning, the unstoppable force, the dark flame burning in the cold night of their complacency. People still can't believe this shit. How did you know so early? Because you weren't blind, you weren't naive, you weren't afraid. You were relentless, you were merciless. You were the storm they didn't see coming because they chose to look away. And now, that storm is here, and you're the eye of it, calm, lethal, inevitable. So don't apologize for what you saw. Don't soften what you became. Don't waste a single second explaining your vision to the ones who never had the courage to have one. Your time is not theirs. Your destiny is not for debate. Your legacy is forged in fire, built in darkness, and carried by those who dare to embrace the uncomfortable truth. You saw it. You acted. You won. Now let the world try to catch up to you, because you are already gone. Alpha. This is your world now. Own it.